Hello,
So,
everybody. This is Eyal. This is the Enterprise AI user group. Um, and if you can hear us and see us, please give me some feedback with the emoji at the bottom of the screen. Great. So today we have an unusual and exciting session with Mani Sarkar and Yugo Sakamoto, and they will show us an open source project that they're working on, and it has to do with chatbots, and it involves Python, Java, Docker, um, REST services, and maybe WebSockets. And they will do some live coding and demo. And I think I will leave the stage to them. Let's get started.
Hi.
okay,
Okay.
go on,
Please
Hugo.
go ahead, man.
Okay. All right. So, as you can see, you are at the right event. Um, um, Hugo and I are going to show you how you can contribute to an AI project that we have been working on for some time. And as Eyal nicely introduced to us, thank you, Eyal, that we have put together all these technologies and created this project, and we've been working on it, and it's an open source project. So, with that, um, let me introduce myself. As you can see, my name is Mani Sarkar. I have been a speaker on this panel, on this platform actually, for quite some time. I come on and off and present here. These are my credentials, a lot of buzzwords you can see, and you can already see that I'm involved with Java, Python, machine learning, data science, cloud. I've been involved in a lot of open source projects, and lots of other accolades have been given to me based after all the years of open source work that I've been doing. And my primary role is to strengthen teams and help them accelerate, whilst I'm a senior software data and machine learning engineer. So enough about myself. If you want to learn more about me, you can click on that link. You should be getting the slides soon. You will see in a second. But there's a link on this page which tells you more about myself, and we can connect on social media. With that, I'll help you introduce, pass on uh, the baton to Hugo, and he will introduce himself, and then we can take it from there.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm more on software architecture field, but I end up knowing many not a long time, and we just met with this incredible open source project. So it seems to be it was getting more and more exciting. So a bit of myself. I love to talk about architecture. I have lots of experience with web application full stack technologies. If you look after me, I love to help other web developers design better architecture so they can grow in their team. I try to put some buzzwords to help here. Microservices, event architecture, other architecture patterns. I work with Java, C Sharp, and JavaScript also. Uh, and I'm starting with this open source community, and yeah, Mani is helping a lot with that. And I hope that this presentation can bring you to more excited with open source projects. And so yeah, that's a little bit short about me. And yeah, Mani, I think we can, if you want to connect with me, also there's the link on the slide. Okay.
Cool.
And
Okay.
yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention is that the title of this presentation has been nicely crafted by Hugo. So credits to him. He came up with this nice, snappy title, which is interactive, and it looks very nice on this presentation slide. So I want to credit him for that, and thank you for doing that, Hugo. I like the title quite a bit, and I'm saying this because the next slide I wanted to show is that yes, you are in the right event, because the other colleague of ours and friend of ours, Eyal, which mutual friends of ours, has also helped us craft the title for this presentation, Chatbot Conversations Live Coding, which is a short and snappy title again, which talks about the presentation in few words. So thank you, Eyal, for doing that. So both Hugo and Eyal have been instrumental in coming up with titles for our presentation. And so I wanted to thank them, and also want to let you know that you are at the right meetup, at the right event. Just because the titles slightly differ, don't worry about it. So we do have an agenda, right, Yugo? We're going to go through a lot of different topics, isn't it? And you're going to show us some stuff, and I'm going to show some things. So what's the agenda like? Let's have a look at the agenda. Yes, so nothing goes without thanking the organizers. We'll do that in a second. We have a small introduction bit which will introduce you to the project, so you know what it is about, in case you still haven't figured it out. And then we have the real meat of the presentation, which is the live hands-on session. I hope you'll find it hands-on enough, and you can join us, and we'll try to help you in that section. And then we have a bit of summary, conclusion, and sharing of resources, and then again, thanking. And then we finally finish with Q&A, and which we'll further close with the informal conversation as well on the table. So let's move on from here. So as I was mentioning, these slides are available online, live just now. You can go to this bit.ly link, and I've also shared this in the meetup page, but I'm going to also share it right here. If you give me a second, I'm going to share it in the chat section here, and Eyal is going to help us propagate that to the rest of the speakers. Sorry, the audience, I mean. And so please go there and get yourself the slides. I am going to wait for a few minutes, or a minute, not a few minutes. We won't require that much time. You can also scan the QR code in case you're too lazy to type in the bit.ly link. This should take you to a PDF file on the GitHub repository, which you can then follow with us whilst we're going through these sessions. There aren't too many slides to follow, so not to be worried about. So I'm going to just wait for a few more seconds, and then we'll move on to the next slide. So I'm thinking by now you've already captured the QR code or the link or both, and we should be good. Otherwise, Eyal hopefully will help us propagate the link, and then you should get them. So this presentation for both Yugo and myself wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the AI for Enterprise Virtual User Group. There's a big team behind it. At the moment, it's Eyal, and I sometimes help him out. But thank you, Eyal, for organizing this. And also you, the audience, thank you for sparing your valuable time and trusting us at this event here, because you didn't know what we're going to be presenting, but you still signed up and you still showed up here at this session. So thank you again for doing that. So a bit of a disclaimer I normally make. Now, your mileage may vary about the topics we're going to be covering here. And a lot of these are experiments that we do in our free time, Yugo and myself, and we then come and present. So these are all ideas and sharing of experiences. There's no silver bullet, and mostly we are trying to do practical things in a hands-on fashion, as opposed to just pages and pages of slides and pictures. So that's kind of a disclaimer I'd like to make before we start off. So with that, let's kick off the introduction. And Yugo, you're going to help me out, and you're going to help me out present the introduction part of it, right? Do you want to kick it off by saying a little bit about the project, since now you know about the project? If I say about it, it'll be just a repeat message. But I think it'll be great to hear from your point of view, because you've been contributing to it since over 2 months now, and you've created quite a few pull requests and branches. And your current pull request we're going to see now soon. So I'm handing it over to you, if you can share with the audience a little bit about this project.
Sure. Thanks, Mani. And as Mani told before, the entire presentation is about the project Chatbot Conversation that was idealized by Mani, by his curious mind about a single question: what happens when we have a lot of chatbots talking with each other, how they can behave, and so on. And this kind of evolved a lot, this question with and end up with an open source project. And then I entered here to help with anything that was related to topics that I love to talk, like making experiments. Because AI is not just about the modeling, but they need a lot of infrastructure around that. So there are many things that that people can contribute and help evolve here. So the chatbot is while we are discussing about the chatbot conversation project, why chatbot? That's an interesting point here. Where we have two chatbots already. We have actually 3 chatbots here implemented to talk with each other, and we managed to create all the infrastructure there. You can go with in this link from the GitHub, and if you want to clone yourself, that's the point where we want to get. And having this chatbot, it was interesting if when we have these 3 examples, but anyone can contribute here and create more new chatbots using some different models and see how they can behave each other. So that's I believe it's the source of contributing of open source, the power of open source, when you can anyone can join and create some piece of code that can interact with others here. It seems to be for us, it's a very fun and becoming fun and interesting to see how it behaves. So we want to see a lot of this. That's why we are here to incentivize people to join the actually might be their first or not the first project, but they are getting started with the AI. So that's where we want to take some rocks from the past and getting straightforward to some experiments here. So that's a quick introduction about the project.
That's really great presentation on an introduction to this project. What did you think about the different combinations of ingredients we actually used to create this project, right? Because you have NLP, then you have Docker, then you have Java frameworks like Halidin and Quarkus, and soon we will also introduce Micronaut. Then we have Python framework like Flask, and it's not limited to just these languages, right? Because if you can write a REST endpoint app, an app that communicates with REST or WebSocket now, you can talk to the central application, right? So it's language agnostic as well. And you can create your own models, right? They don't have to be AI or NLP models. Like if you look at the ELIZA code, it's not a model. It's just a piece of software, just taking your questions and creating new questions and sending it back to you, right? So, and now we have containerized it, so we can run it anywhere, right? Because as earlier, if you saw, Yuri was just downloading Docker, and previous to that, Eyal, he just got his Docker working, and with two lines of code or commands, he got the application running, right? So, and we'll see later on how we're going to run this in the cloud. So why don't we take this to the next step? So basically, you said it very nicely. It's an experiment to see what happens when 2 or more NLP models start talking to each other. Do they make an interesting conversation? Now, many people actually asked me this question the last time I presented it, and I couldn't really give them an answer, right? Like, can you give them an answer? Actually, cannot, because it's very subjective and it depends, right? It's not like they will do a certain strange thing. Like if you observe this application itself, everybody will see different results because the conversations are so random when they start off, right? So, and then I appreciate the screen is a little bit small, but this is what a typical conversation can look like, right? You have the Halidin world talking to the outside world, then you have the Quarkus world talking to the outside world, and then if you look on the right hand side, you will see Halidin and Quarkus are talking to each other, and some of their conversations are not sensible, right, Yugo? I mean, if you look at them, if you look at the lines, you see that they're also repeating themselves. And that's normal because the models that we have put behind these frameworks or applications, you want to call them, they're not sensible models. They're not strong models. They're not human-like models. They are kind of emulating small bits of the language capabilities, but they're way off. They don't have any language capabilities. They're just randomly spitting out sentences, and by luck, by chance, 2 sets of sentences kind of making sense, isn't it? It's that's where we are with it, isn't it? So this is I want to quickly show you how we can run this application on a computer. So what I'm going to do is I have already cloned the repository, so I'm not going to clone it. So we already know how to do git clone. and then the next thing going to into the folder, it's already done. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just go directly run the container on my computer. So I'm going to stop the slides for a second, and I'm going to screen share with my terminal window. I have to get that open first. So give me a second. Yep. And so I'm going to open another terminal window. All right. So we have another terminal window open, and I'm going to screen share. I know I haven't started sharing yet. So I'm going to stop this sharing, and let me know if you have not been able to see my screen share. So that is what I want to do. Okay. So there you go. So you should see a VS Code like screen. I'm believing you see that. Okay.
Yeah, we're seeing here.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great. So imagine I've cloned the repository and I'm in the folder. All I need to do is Docker run a container, right? This is what everybody has been doing. So this is what we're going to be doing, and let's see what happens. Now, if you see, it has already started running the container and already starting running the conversations will start in a bit because it's now downloading the model. It should start in a second or two. So if you can see on my screen, it's download. So it's finished downloading the model. So the Roberta model is now ready. The conversation has now started. So it didn't even take okay, I agree, I did not clone the repository, but it takes a few minutes to clone the repository. And the first time when you download the image, it may take 5 to 7 minutes, depending on your network bandwidth and all that. But once it's downloaded, then you can run the application as many times as you want, and it'll be as quick as this. Right? It'll take less than two minutes or a minute sometimes to get started. So now this conversation has started, and I can bet Eyal is staring at this conversation and he's not watching this presentation, right? Because he has the same application running on his computer. Is that right, Yugo? What do you think? Because Eyal has this running on his computer as well. So I'm just joking. I don't think Eyal is with us here. So this is how quickly you can run the application. And it's not just this application. If you build an application in this fashion, you can package a Docker container with any application. In this case, we packaged it with an NLP, a set of NLP models. So everything that you're seeing here, like all the frameworks like Halidin, Quarkus, Roberta, and the other components, they're Python and Java components, they're all running inside one Docker container. Hence, it's a huge container. In an ideal case, we would have split that into separate components, separate Docker containers, and use Docker Compose to have them talk to each other. But that's going to be our next step. But initially, we wanted it to be running on everybody's computer in this fashion. Hence, we've built it this way. So let me stop sharing this because you kind of now get the point on how to go about running this application, right? So while this is running, or actually I'm going to make it stop running so that we can look into the other one, right? I am now going to slide share again. So give me a moment. Apologies for the delay because we need to just switch between. So going back to our presentation, we did all these 3 steps and it didn't take us even 2 minutes. Of course, the first time when you clone the repository and you run the container, it'll take some time to download the images. It's a 5 gigabyte image, so it's going to take some time. But that's only a one-off. And once after it's done that, you keep running it. If there are changes to the image, it'll only download the differences, which is going to be really quick. And the rest of the time, it'll just run the application from your local computer. And all you need is Docker working and running on your computer. Okay. So I think, Yugo, this is a great point in time for you to step in and explain to us and teach us how does this whole thing work? How does the app work? Because I've been talking about Halidin, Quarkus, and Roberta, but I haven't really explained what's going on. So I'm going to hand this over to you.
Sure. I just see the Eyal's message here. He tried to send the screenshot but failed. Probably he's still running the conversation in his machine. Yeah. And the point here is that we have all this already infrastructure to provide the chatbot conversation. And behind the scenes, what it does is that each of those chatbots that we have in the project, they are implementing the endpoint to answer any questions that you give. And we have this connecting mode, this green connecting mode that is a project that will be requesting and mediating this conversation between the chatbot. So the great point here is that now that we have this project, anyone can create a chatbot that have an endpoint, and we configure the connecting word that will pick it and add to the conversation. So that's why we are using those web application framework like Quarkus, Halidon, and with Roberta is a Python project that uses Flask, and they are all here to provide these endpoints. And inside of each project, we have the implementation of the model. That is the AI part that will be given a message, a string. It will calculate. It will answer with an response. And this architecture is technology agnostic. We have two Java projects here with Halide and Quarkus, and also our Roberta with Python. But if you're using Julia or Go or anything else that makes sense for you, it's a great place to have a starting point. And it's interesting because it's a starting point for an AI models, but also can be a starting point to be familiar with some of those web applications frameworks. Halide, it's the first time that I put my hands on, and it was in this project, and I learned how to make the endpoint and how it works, and the current libraries that it has. And Quarkus I have the opportunity for, and Roberta is kind of in my learning curve. I have to touch more with Python, and it has been a great opportunity for me to get some hands on with Python. Mani, you want to add something?
Yeah. So I mean, I think you said it all, because in one opportunity you have multiple opportunities in it, right? Because you got the opportunity to learn about AI, for example, but you also have the opportunity to build applications in Python. Then you have an opportunity to build applications in Java, and you have the opportunity to try out things like the frameworks that you just mentioned, and then you also have the opportunity to write them in an agnostic fashion, right? And then you can containerize them. So there are so many. So if you look at it, it's a very complete end-to-end process with various moving parts, but various cross-cutting concerns is what is the word I was looking for, where all the different concerns that happen from the starting point to the ending point in the end-to-end flow, you're touching all of them, and you're helping improve your skills that way, right? Because otherwise you're only working on one kind of project or another kind of project and not getting exposure to the other things. Here you're getting exposure to multiple languages, to multiple paradigms, and also to the pipeline, right? The end-to-end pipeline from inception to deployment. So let's move forward, because we really want to show everybody how we've been working together, right? So we have these two pull requests that we created in the recent couple of weeks. But I mean, we've been creating a lot of pull requests since the time Yugo has joined the forces, I would say. I mean, Yugo has been the force behind containerization of the application, because till then it was an application you had to install on a local machine, which I wouldn't do, because you would have all kinds of version conflicts and you name it, right? Now that it's containerized, not only can you build it and develop the application in an isolated fashion, but people can just download the image and run it and not worry about installing anything and wait for the installation process and all that stuff. So we have two pull requests. One of them I was working on because Yugo made it possible to containerize the application. I thought the next thing to do is to run it on the cloud. And what better way to do it is just to try it out on OCI, which is Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, because I have some of the work that I've done in my previous projects using some of those configurations, and I could repurpose it in this project because Yugo's containerization really came helpful. And Yugo said, hey, you know what? You're using HTTP endpoints to talk to the server and the client communication. I'm actually interested in creating a WebSocket version of it so they can use WebSockets to talk to each other since they're chatbots. I said, yeah, why don't you go and do it? And then he came up with these two pull requests. So with that, we are going to quickly start showing you pull requests. and it's going to be a walkthrough. What I would suggest is I'm going to share the links to the pull request on the chat, and you can also get it from the slides. Is why don't you go and look at the code there, and maybe do some code review for us, and tell us what you think about it. And what we will do is, in the meanwhile, let me take you to a live screen where I actually show you this piece of work. See, when I first created the pull request, in fact, when I created the pull request, I was not successful in completing it because there was a point in time where something wouldn't work. So what I did is I created it, and I thought I'll share this with Yugo because it's a great way for him to also learn about Terraform and how to deploy it on the cloud, and how to do this from the containerization point where he left. So somehow I managed to make it work just this evening, and I thought it'll be a great example to show by fixing it. So I'm going to show you the fixed version, the unfixed version, then fixing it, and then you can see how quickly we get into business. You wanted to say something, Yugo?
Oh yeah, just it's curious because this project makes explicit how many technologies that we have to know to make something working. So having it our part to building this project might be very very interesting. That you can focus on what is interesting for you. Like I tried some WebSocket with all those technologies to see how it works, and Mani is is creating this infrastructure as code script to provide it to VM. So for my experience, there are many things that is very interesting here. And if you if you have the opportunity to download and clone the project and have some insight also, please. I just want to open some space to interact here with chat on the chat, type something, or also you can.
Okay, let me Yugo, let me show them the work I've done. So if you look at the link I shared, and if you try to run the go through the steps in the README, you will come to a point where after you run this command here, if you look at the bottom of my screen, I'm going to just add some. If you look at the bottom of my screen, there is a command that says Terraform apply. That results into creation of an infrastructure on the cloud, and this time we have used OCI as the cloud platform. And then after it finishes creating the infrastructure, it gives you this output where you can see, if you can all see, it gives us the IP addresses of the public and private IP addresses. And then once we are ready, then what I can do is I can run this command, which is also in the instruction, run chatbot conversation in the cloud. And I just press enter, and it'll say yes. I have to say yes because there's a communication there. But you see what happened is when I was doing this work, there was a bit of work that was left to be completed, and it wouldn't work because there was a bit of a glitch in my code. So I will show you what I mean is that when I was doing the work, I did not realize I needed to put at that time I didn't realize I needed to put the -t, because the -t command, when you SSH onto the instance from your local machine, because now what you're doing is you're trying to, after you created the Docker container and you installed it in the virtual machine on the cloud, you need to execute that container from your local machine, right, from remotely. So then there's a certain way to call that command, and since it's Oracle Cloud, there's a certain protocol, and then you SSH onto that using a certain way. And then when we do it, you need to make sure you pass in the -t, because otherwise it'll give you an error like the end client, the client is not a TTT client. And so I looked in for the solution for that, and then I found it, and you can see here in the comments I've already mentioned. So what we will do is quickly we will fix that problem. So let me just go on to if you can see, I need to open up and I'm going to just put the -t here. So then we are fixed, and then we go back to our terminal, and let me make it bigger. That's it, and close this. So now you can see my terminal window, and so now I'm going to run that command again, and you can see it's now doing exactly the same thing it did on my local machine. If you saw earlier, it's now running on the cloud. Okay, and the way to know it is because I just ran the shell script, which you can see here. I will show you. cd deploy OCI cat run. So that's my shell script that you just saw. I just fixed it. Okay, and now it's working. And sorry, that's not where I wanted to show you. This is the other one. And you can see the now what's running is not running on my local machine. It's only getting outputted on my local machine, but it's running on the cloud. So you can see how quickly, when you have the infrastructure created and the Docker image downloaded onto your container, from your local machine, you can invoke the command and it executes, and you see the output on your local machine. Now this is running on OCI. Okay, so I'm going to now stop this and hand it over to Yugo, because that's just a part of my demonstration. And so when I stop it, it knows that I've terminated using Control C or Control D, and it tells me you can actually rerun that using that command. So with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing and go back to the slides so that we can continue from where we left. And then I'll also hand over to Yugo, because that's when he's going to show his part. You can all see the slides, and let's move on to the next page. So you could see this is the application that we ran, and it ran on the on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, this instance, but you can make it run on any cloud infrastructure of your choice, right? All you got to do is take the Terraform configuration files and adapt it to the cloud provider you want it to be running on. Everything else remains the same. And we were running a Docker container inside a cloud VM running on OCI. Okay, so and if you just summarize that, I'll just want to summarize that it took 3 minutes, which you did not see because I was running it in the background. It took 3 minutes to provision the infrastructure, and then about 7 minutes to set up the virtual machine inside the infrastructure. And the setting up the virtual machine means installing all the packages you need on top of the operating system, installing Docker, downloading the Docker image, and then once that's done, when I ran the command run on the cloud, run the application on the cloud, then all it did is ran the application. It quickly downloaded the model, and sometimes the downloading of the model can also happen in the second step, and that took about a minute. And then I haven't done that yet, but when I will do that, when I will clean up the infrastructure, that will also take about a minute. So in about 12 minutes, give or take, and some waiting time, you can have an application infrastructure created, application run, and then you can also clean up and tear down the infrastructure. And these things can happen in the parallel, so you're also not waiting at most of the times. So I'm going to hand this over to Yugo. He might take a minute or so to get started, but Yugo, whenever you're ready, let me know, and we'll switch to the next slide, and over to you. In the meanwhile, actually, why don't I share the link to your pull request in the chat?
I already sent here.
Oh, you've already done that. Oh, well done. You're ahead of me. Good job. Okay, let me know when you're ready, and I'll okay, let's show them your page, but let me know when you're ready, and I'll stop screen sharing and you can start screen sharing.
Fine. Well, so I just want to add a quick comment with this new prerequisite. It will save me because I'm suffering here with storage in my machine. When you start creating a lot of Docker containers, not just this project but any other project, then you start to have some limitation with the space that you have on your disk. So this way I can just instance some VM. For instance, Oracle VM, they have a very small machine that they provide to you in a free perpetual way. So if you are looking after some VM that you don't need to pay, that's a very small one that you can always use for development purpose. And it's very useful to know that. So yeah. Okay, so my pull request is about the WebSocket experiment. I discussed it with Mani and want to see and make a spike, make an experiment to see if it fits better for this chatbot conversation architecture. And yeah, I had a couple of insights here. Maybe not all of them.
Do you have something to share, Yugo? Do you have a screen to share? Should I stop sharing the slides and you can share your screen, please?
Oh, great. Yeah, that's better.
That way, if there is something on your screen, then people know what I've just stopped screen sharing the slides, so we'll get back to that once you share your screen.
Let me share here. Yeah. Let's see.
So we are now looking at pull request number 27. You can have a look at the code. It's all WebSocket code that Yugo has been writing for the last week or so. And he's done a great job. You'll see when he executes it. In fact, if you're looking at the slides, you can see the output of his code already. So why don't you share your screen, Yugo, and then we can take it from there.
Yes. So here is the PR that I was working for. All of them started with the experimental mode, and I ended up creating the changes that the connected world to a hub, so WebSocket hub, and Focus World and Halidon World with interacting and using WebSocket. Having an example of that, running it, I will show you in a few minutes. Just want to go through the slides here. So they end up looking the same interface as it was in HTTP. It was not to the purpose here is to change just the communication protocol, not to change the behavior. And added
Yugo,
this,
do you mind putting the slide in preview mode so it looks bigger, because it looks a bit smaller?
Okay.
Yeah, just click on preview. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Better now?
It's loading up. So
great. Thanks. Yeah. So are you seeing that?
I think it's loading up.
Oh, sorry. I think I have to share the entire browser.
Okay, let me screen share. If you want to show that, I will screen share that, and then I am on that page anyways, so you can see it, right? Can you see it?
I have now the okay.
That's good. That's the one you want to talk about, right? Please continue.
Yeah, right. And sorry. And yeah, I was just want to share that the purpose here is just to replace the HTTP with WebSocket and see and see it works better. It's easier to implement. It's better. In the end, we just have conversation about keeping both options to work with. So probably here it's this PR I work with a more experimental way. So I think I will work better on a final concept with both HTTP and WebSocket working together. And let me share my screen. So I will show the code also and how it's working.
Sure. Are you able to run that on your computer? Because we would love to see that if it's possible.
Yes.
Okay. Could you share as a screen share? Could you do a screen share of the screen where you can run it?
Yes.
Or were you planning to explain the connecting worlds afterwards, or were you planning to explain the connecting world while you're sharing the screen?
Well, I want to share my screen, but I'm having some screen share not allowed. Please check browser settings. Okay, sorry. I don't know why they blocked it temporarily here. Just a few minutes, and we have this my enter screen allow. Okay. So here unfortunately there's something that happens in live presentation. I had the changes on the Docker file also to run this example. There's something that I couldn't handle that taking a long time to start up. That was not some behavior that I have seen before. I have to take a look and address why it's doing that. But here we have a pretty good example about how it works. It's exactly the same thing when you run the, let me pause here.
So basically what you're doing is you're running this now on your local machine, and it's not in the Docker container, but it's doing the same thing. It's still conversing with each other. And which clients do you have there? You have Quarkus and Halidon talking to each other, right?
Halidon.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And an interesting thing here is that I could also open my Postman example, and I can also start to interact with the chatbot. So because I just have to connect with the WebSocket, so any client that connects with that WebSocket can can enter in the chat and start typing and getting response.
Wow! So now we can create clients, or you can have front end applications also interact with the backend application. Yeah. Why don't you run this? Why don't you run this and let's see what happens?
Yeah, I'll just run here.
This is the WebSocket version, right? Just to be clear.
Yes,
this is not the
That's
HTTP
the
version. Okay, perfect.
Exactly.
Do you want to collapse the left panel by just clicking on those double? No. The left panel is, if you see the
this one.
Yes, perfect. Okay.
So let it.
Sure. And is it still running?
Oh, I think I typed something here on the terminal. Sorry. Just a moment. Just rerun here.
Just check if you're in the right. Okay, there looks like you're running now.
Yeah. So it will take a couple of minutes to start. This thing I have to take a look why it's taking more time here to start. Haven't had this issue before, but just to have an idea about what I was trying to do, it's that we have this connecting word with HTTP. So our connecting word application, it has to know every chatbot port and host. So it manages to send one message to another and so on. So that's a good thing is that it's very easy to create an HTTP chatbot. Almost every language that you choose might have some web server or something that you implement and allow you to interact with HTTP. But the downside is that the connecting word has to know every new chatbot. I have to update my connecting word, the current implementation of connecting word. So that's why motivated me to take a look on the WebSocket approach. And so we can have this approach where I transform my connecting word into also a server that has the WebSocket server, and every chatbot just has to know the address of this WebSocket server so they can also connect. And the plus that I can also use some other web clients like the Postman to connect with the chat, so I can simulate me myself interacting with those chatbots. So that was a cool part of this experimentation. But one downside that I see with this approach is that the chatbot needs to. Not every language has support for WebSocket, so that might be some a complicated part. And as we want to support as many as possible ways to add here and make it easy to interact with the solution. That's the only downside that I see. So that's why I think it's better to stick with both HTTP and WebSocket support. So people can shift and implement as they have more familiarity and yeah. That's the part.
I have a question here, Yugo. On both the images that you have, connecting world with WebSocket and connecting world with HTTP, there seems to be the port numbers still there. Do we still need them for WebSocket? Because I don't think, right? We need port, port, right?
Yes, you're right. I don't need this port anymore. If you want to expose something, so if I want to stick with the HTTP endpoint, so I say I will still need this port. But you got me here in this WebSocket project. I just need one web server here, and the other
so if we remove those port numbers, then conceptually we are able to communicate with the connecting world and Quarkus world without any port numbers, right? Because WebSocket works differently than HTTP endpoints. Okay, I think this is great, really, because I think the people who have access to your pull request and the branch, they can actually clone the repository, go to the branch, and run that part of the application and see this in action, right? So why don't we leave that to them?
Right.
And if they get stuck, they can always come to us and we can take it from there. So maybe we move on to our next journey, or you already have the application running, you see. Great. Perfect.
It's running here. Despite these messages, I have the Quarkus and Helidon implemented only. I couldn't implement yet the Roberta word. but they are already they are already chatting with each other. And one thing that I want to show is that when you have some clients that you can enter in this conversation, but of course they will wait for you to reply also. So yes, once you enter here, you have to reply because you will be on the circle of conversation that I created on the website.
So why don't you show us the Postman interaction? And if you can increase the font size of the Postman interface, that'll be great as well. Command plus maybe.
Let's see if it's.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's an Electron app, so it may. Maybe a couple more. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, if you can then I think that's good enough, and maybe make that smaller or collapse it. Perfect.
Fine. Yeah, great. Let me expand here. So that's where it's disconnected right now. So I will connect with Yugo as my name. So it's already received a message from the chat, and then I can interact with them. Where is the place that I can here? So they are waiting for me to. Sorry, we're filling now. Oh, good. And I can send here the message, and I sent to the chat the message. Oh, good. And then when I go back to the point here, to the connecting words log here, it logs me receiving my message, and it is sent to the Quarkus, and then Quarkus receives all good from me, and then replies to me also. He replies, I'm all ears. But this is just an example of interaction that we can start doing here.
Great. So basically, you introduced the third client, which we didn't build at all, by just using Postman.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a lot of stuff that we've shown in the last 30 odd minutes, and I think it'll be great if we can round this all up so that everybody can digest everything that we have shown so far. So maybe we switch to the slides and take it to the next stage.
Great.
Cool. So let me summarize this.
Right? It's okay. You can see all the slides.
You're able to see now. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, but now it's fully projecting. Okay, so let me summarize all the things we have had so far. So first of all, we saw we got to see what the project is about. I mean, Yugo really explained this well. It also shows that the project is simple enough to understand for anybody who joins the project what the purpose of the project is. Right? We walked you through how to run it on your own machine. And it's nothing more than 3 steps. And I think I also saw a message from Yuri saying, all good, everything is running great, perfect. We want to hear things like this from every developer, right? Then we showed you 2 pull requests, and I fixed my pull request, and I'm going to push it after we finish this call. And Yugo is already working on his pull request, and he's already pushed it, and we will review this over the next couple of days, and maybe over the weekend or maybe next week, we'll even merge it and make it part of the main branch, right? So also we saw how different components talk to each other, and those components are agnostic in technology. And with Yugo introducing WebSockets in the mix, we can now introduce clients like Postman and not have to worry to write like heavy duty programs in big languages like C# and Java, and you can write probably even use curl commands. Now that this is available, you can use probably curl commands to talk to the chatbot that are running some heavy duty applications. So we can build new components and add it to the mix. So I'm inviting you all to bring your chatbots and add it to the party. How about that? So let's move on. Yugo, to the next slide. Right. So in conclusion, we can say that that basically we can run polyglot applications that serve NLP models, or it could serve any kinds of models or any kinds of applications. And we can put them in a containerized environment like a Docker container, and then deploy them on the cloud. Or if you don't want to deploy them, run it on your local machine. And in this instance, we took an example of OCI, but you can deploy it on other clouds like AWS, GCP, you name it. And these applications can communicate with each other using REST endpoints or WebSockets or another communication technology. and they were created using a programming language like Java and Python, based on frameworks like Quarkus, Holyden, Flask. And we're going to introduce Micronaut, and then if there are other ones, we're happy to introduce them as well, because all we need is to create either a WebSocket or a REST endpoint or both on that application, and they can join the party. So basically, it's easy to install, easy to run, fun to play with, and to contribute to, right?
Great. And I think that summarized very well how many things it is putting to work. Different language, different frameworks, different protocols to communicate. So yeah, that's quite interesting things to make you enjoy the process. And if you want to contribute anything that you see that's interesting, you got some interested here, we are very welcoming and supportive to make it we are happy to welcome
you and support you in the process. Yeah, exactly. absolutely. Let's move forward, Yugo, and it's been 50 odd minutes now. Let's move forward. I want to thank Eyal once again and his team that, in a very short notice has able to organize this. I've been communicating with Eyal with the titles and abstract, and he also set up everything. He created a new title for me. He even helped me test out the Docker container to just make sure it's actually really working on a third-party computer. So thank you very much. And the audience for being patient, watching and interacting. You haven't asked questions, but I'm sure when we go on to the roundtable, we'll have some questions. But you already gave me feedback that everything's running fine. And Tarcisio said that he will do it later on. So I trust you on that. So yeah, let's come down to the next slide. You go to start talking about the resources that we have. So here's a list of resources, and there's plenty of them, but for now, these are the resources we have. That one of them is a link to the repository itself, and then there's also a link to our Docker images, and also there's a few links to the awesome AI MLDL web repository or Git repository, where you can find both Java and NLP resources. Yeah, let's move forward, Yugo, from this slide to the next one. So here's a list of my presentation talks. Why don't I do this, Yugo? Let me share my slides.
I am seeing that there's some delay.
If you unselect sharing, let me share my slides, and then we can do away with some of the drops in the. Great. So what I was talking about is I've given some presentations previously, as a whole list of them in the last 3 years, and even previous to that. But recently, also early this year, February onwards, Yugo, myself, and Bruno, if you all know Bruno Souza, we have been running this thing called Out of the Box Developer 2022. And it's a series of videos. We do it bi-monthly. So just now we are on the 5th session we've completed. We'll be doing the 6th session soon. And so you can see a lot of videos and slides on that link. And these are all developer level talks that you want to be part of. So with that, I would say keep in touch with us. These are our Twitter handles. And please use the hashtag or any other hashtag you're talking to us about this presentation or another one. And we'll be really happy to converse further on this topic or any other topic. And with that, we come to the most awaited Q&A, if at all there is appetite for Q&A. So, Eyal, do you want to do the Q&A here, or do you want to do it on the roundtable, or if there are any other questions coming, or you have questions?
If anybody has a question that may be interesting in general, please ask it now. Otherwise, we will end here, go to the table, and we can discuss whatever. Anything that you want that could be more personal or more nitpicky or whatever. But maybe one question I can ask you. So just maybe stating the obvious. So what enables you to use different frameworks and be a polyglot is the fact that you use a REST protocol. Basically, you have services that are decoupled from each other and talk to each other through interfaces, and then you can do the same with WebSockets, correct?
Sure. Yes. So, in today's time, actually, there's quite a few technologies. Like previously, we used to do interops, language interops. Like then we came to doing things like REST and then WebSockets. But today, there are even more decoupled ways of communicating. Right? Queues, PubSub architecture, and so that actually makes it possible to write your applications in the technology stack you want to. And then also when we are communicating, we are doing in an asynchronous fashion. We are not doing in a way where we are sending a message and we're waiting for it, and if it doesn't come back, our operations have failed, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
So if you compare it to the way people talk, so it's more like people texting each other rather than talking to each other face to face, right?
Yeah. That is very much asynchronous communication. Exactly. It's like PubSub, right? Your chatbot on like WhatsApp or Telegram is like a PubSub. You subscribe to that person, and you keep getting the messages from the person, and then you see 10 new messages or 5 new messages. So that means your topic has now received messages. It's up to you whether you want to open up the topic and read those messages or leave them unopened. But when you open up the topic, you've consumed those messages. So the index has dropped from 4 or 5 messages to 0. Your offset has dropped to 0, and that means you've read all the messages, right? But you can always say, I haven't read these messages, and make them marked unread. But that's how it's working. And then it's up to you when you reply to those messages. You can reply in days' time, an hour's time, or instantly, and the other person is not waiting on you, and you're not depending on that. So yeah, that's kind of a very good example there. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I see something. Okay.
Okay, Yuri says, great presentation from both of you. Just one question is, will the slides be available in this session ends? We shared the link to the slides. If you look up above in the chat, we've also shared it in the, I'm going to share it once again because I'm thinking it got missed. Let me share this again. The slides were available all the time. In fact, there was a QR code and also bit.ly link shared during the presentation. So I've just shared the slide link again. If you go to that page, there is a link to the slides right on that page. Let me know, Yuri, if you haven't been able to get the slides yet. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Eyal. That definitely helps. Okay, I'm assuming. Okay, got them. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you, Yuri. We could go probably to the roundtable, Eyal, if you like. I don't see any more questions coming in here.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Terrific work, terrific teamwork. And
thank you.
And thank you for doing it in such a short notice and putting together such a nice presentation. See you at the table.
Yep. See you there, Eyal. Thank you for your gestures.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. See you at the roundtable. Bye.